Hello, welcome back to Mining Network. I'm with Steve Turner, the Managing Director of Pivotal Metals. Steve, good to see you.
Happy to.
Brief overview, if you don't mind, to kick things off.
Yeah, sure. So we're an ASX listed company. We have been since 2018. We were listed as Rafaella Resources, but we just announced 2 days ago that our name has changed to Pivotal Metals. So our ticker, for those out there, it's no longer RFR, it's PVT. And Pivotal Metals, why? Because we've done a significant change in our direction over the last 12 months. We've built up a portfolio in Spain, put that in a really good place where we think we can bring in some local funding. And then what we're doing is we're shifting our focus very much towards a battery metals play in Canada. Initially on the back of an exploration portfolio we've built up, but now really excitingly on the back of a acquisition of Horton Lake, which is a large polymetallic battery metal deposit in northwest Quebec. So we're looking to invest in those metals pivotal to the changing economies.
Brilliant. Okay, just before we get into the new assets and the historic portfolio, can you just run us through the capital structure of the company at the moment?
Yeah, so we have 350 million shares in issuance. We've got several million in the bank. We have our enterprise value at the moment is sitting at around 12 million, just under $12 million. And the share price is trading about 4.5 cents.
Brilliant.
Okay? We have about 31 million options out there as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so a fairly simple capital structure and one that is set up ready to expand for the company.
Maybe look at the new assets to begin with,
Yep.
and then we'll look at sort of where things have been left in Spain and how you're going to be attracting value out of that. But what was the reason for the change initially? Obviously, you're moving into pivotal metals and critical metals for this energy transition.
Yes.
How did you go about acquiring the licenses? What was the train of thought in diversifying into this new area?
Yeah, look, it's a good question. It's very deliberate. All right, so we've had a lot of opportunities come across our desk. What we looked at is we really like the assets in Spain. All right, we've put a lot of work in there. We've invested some good money. We've taken them forward and had some great successes. But what we also recognize is that tungsten's a difficult metal. It's hard to get people excited about tungsten. Spain has its own issues around mining and some challenges there. And so what we recognize is, we're a junior company with development assets in a difficult metal and maybe, not one of the top tier mining jurisdictions in the world. So we thought, how do we reinvigorate the company? How do we, make it more appealing to shareholders? Let's get some excitement back on the stock. So we deliberately picked a set of commodities that is getting more and more interest, and we see the future of battery metals extremely positively. So battery metals, and then, what sort of jurisdiction do we want? Let's go for a top tier jurisdiction. We had the opportunity to acquire some assets in Quebec. You can't get much better than that. And since we've done that at the end of 2020, the fiscal position or scenario in Quebec has only got better. The federal budget is supportive of critical metals. The flow-through shares, which is a scheme that can allow you to raise capital for exploration in particular, has just got better and better in Quebec. So it looks like a right call.
Good. What in particular about these licenses drew you to them?
So we started off with what we call Midram and LaForce, which have substantial drilling on them, over 45,000 meters of drilling. Very, very good grades, all shallow, of over 4 or 5% nickel copper in there.
Okay.
It's a gabbro intrusive, a lot of mineralization, but fairly shallow, but fairly small pods of high grade mineralization. So we've done a review, and we've taken a more of a wider holistic view over this over the geological model, and believe that this mineralization is indicative of a potentially deeper play. Mm-hmm. So we are looking at targeting a deeper play. We've done a VTEM survey looking deeper, and we've identified a lot of anomalies below 300 meters.
Okay. Logically, the next step must then be to actually go and test these theories.
We were very fortunate that the adjacent claims came available earlier this year, and in May we doubled our position. So we picked up the Alota and Lorraine claims as well. So we've renamed it the Bellatore-Angliers Greenstone Belt Project, which is representative of where they're located. 157 square kilometers, very similar Alota Lorraine, again high grade pods, small pods, indicative, we think, of a deeper system. A lot of the anomalies we've identified in Midram in particular extend through into Alota. So we think this is one of those exploration plays that offers an enormous amount of potential, the type of play that you can get down there and hit some pretty good grades at depth and really totally transform the company. So that was the beginning of this pivot towards Canada. And so it's built upon this high impact, really high potential exploration play in the Bellatore-Angliers, the Greenstone Belt.
And you have an acquisition going through at the moment.
We do.
Can you touch on that?
We do, and that is the story of the day. So really culminating the whole pivot to Canada has been the acquisition of Horden Lake. Horden Lake is a polymetallic battery metal project in northwest Quebec, discovered in the 1960s by Inco, had 32,000 meters of drilling. They focused on copper and nickel. Didn't make sense at the time where prices were. It was quite remote.
Sure.
But since then, of course, battery metals has really become a lot more in favor. There's a lot of infrastructure that's gone in place since. So there's a James Bay Road that has been constructed from the Le Grand Power Station in the north that goes right past the property down to Metagami, which is 140 kilometers south of the property. So it passes within 18 kilometers. You've got an upgraded road that was just finished the upgrade, $300 million investment finished of March this year. It's got high fiber optic cables. It's got HV power lines coming from a hydroelectric power station, so access to green power. So that's really opened up the region. Now this deposit, extensively drilled by Inco, and then later on drilled in 2008, another 18,000 meters. And they put together a resource, and it was clear that there's also a lot of other credits available. There was very, very good grades picked up of cobalt, of palladium, of gold and silver. So a resource is put together. It doesn't cover the credits don't cover the whole resource as it is at the moment. We've rerun all those numbers since we've signed up this deal. So we agreed to buy this project for 4 million Canadian. Mm-hmm. We've paid $500,000 so far. And since we signed it up on the 2nd of September, we've rerun all the raw data, come out with the JORC resource report dated the 14th of November, so it's extremely recent. We've put a pit-constrained parameters around that, and we've determined a 27.8 million ton deposit at a 1.49 copper equivalent.
Wow.
And the really exciting thing is that still doesn't include the cobalt or the silver or even all the gold. So we expect that copper equivalent grade to come up substantially once we get back out there and start drilling and doing some more multi-element assays.
So obviously you put $500,000 down at the moment.
Yeah.
It's 4 million to close the acquisition. Have you got the funds already to close this?
So we already drew down $1 million placement that was put together by some of our supportive shareholders to put the cash in the bank to allow us to go part way towards that funding.
Yep.
We also announced that we had a $1 million facility arranged with Riverfort, and that facility is still there, available to be drawn down. And then we have been talking to various strategic investors to come in and put some money in, and they all have the ability to actually fund the whole thing if they want to.
Brilliant.
So they're in the data room and having a look at that. So those discussions are going very positively. So we remain quite comfortable that we're going to have that capital available, ready to close out the deal towards the end of December.
Theoretically, would that be, if strategics come in, would that be at an asset level, or would that be at a company
come
level?
on the top co. So
Good.
come in through Pivotal Metals, and they would invest and take a shareholding in the company.
Brilliant.
We've already managed to secure some further cornerstones into this into that financing. So we're a long way along the route of filling out the book for that race.
Good. And then, okay, so then you've got the mine plan in your head of how it looks at the moment. What does the exploration program look like next year? What are the main priorities?
So 2023 is really exciting. So what we've been doing is we have, on the back of doing the resource model, we have now put together an exploration program that will go in and target those areas that haven't had the multi-element assays. Mm-hmm. We're going to put in a couple of deep holes that will target some high-grade extensions, and we'll also take out about 1,200 kilograms of metallurgical core for an extensive met test program. We're also looking to initiate some baseline studies, environmental studies. In Canada, it's 18 to 2 years required, so we'll start that off now. Mm-hmm. And we'll pull all that together with the idea of putting out a PFS in 2023. That really is quite a major catalyst for this whole project. We've been working towards that. We're actually putting in our permitting for the Quebec drilling this week. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we're lining up to be in a good place to start drilling in January. The drilling season is effectively January to March. Mm-hmm. So we're anticipating to be on the ground in January, drilling around a 7,000 meter drill program.
Brilliant. Okay. It's quite astonishing that it's such a large, very good grade resource, and you're able to pick it up, which seems fairly cheap for all it is.
We were very, very fortunate in the circumstances of the deal.
Yeah.
The asset was held by various companies. It actually passed to an individual who's not into mining, was never going to take it anywhere. It sat on his books. The claims have remained in good standing, and was never going to take it forward. So we've done a deal where it's a cash deal. He gets the cash in the bank, which he wouldn't have otherwise, and we're the ones to take this project and unlock it. And without us there, that project wouldn't be unlocked. So it wouldn't have moved anywhere. It's a deal I think that's good for both of us. But on the metrics side, if you look at it on acquisition metrics, yes, it's a very, very accretive deal.
With that asset being located in Quebec as well, you're building quite a hub there. I mean, what is your current experience of working there? Obviously, it seems like from the experience that we've had is unbelievable government support. Permitting seems to be better than other parts of Canada. And there are also a lot of funds based in Quebec that will only invest in Quebec infrastructure. So you've picked a pretty good area to go find these deposits, right?
Well, we certainly think so. And you know, from a personal level, I'm actually from that area. So I'm actually from Ottawa.
Okay.
So I grew up, raised, went to school in Ottawa. So I'm actually, and Ottawa is probably the nearest major town to these properties. So it's a bit of a full circle for me.
Yes.
So although I look after an Australian listed company, I live in Madrid at the moment looking after these projects. I'm extremely familiar with the region and the area from a personal level. So for me, it's a natural fit. For the company, it's a good fit. We've also identified a very good project manager with 40 years of experience that's agreed to come on. So when that's all locked up, we'll have someone on the ground, technical, with an enormous amount of experience to help run these programs.
Brilliant. Okay. Looking at Spain, where have things been left? Because from last memory, the tungsten asset in Spain, the key asset, was ready to be built, but you're waiting on a permit, right? Is that still the case?
There are two projects. There's Santa Comba and Sandfinks. We acquired Sandfinks only in January of this year. Now, Santa Comba was the original project. We acquired it because of the open pit potential. It has an underground permit, but the open pit potential is quite large. We spent quite a lot of time and effort better to understand that resource better. It is a different processing methodology because it's a disseminated ore, whereas the historical processing was through a high-grade narrow vein in a quartz vein. So a lot of work's been done on that, and I think as we've gone through it, we've also understood that this project, economic and attractive as it is, we came out with an advanced pre-feasibility study back in July, indicates that really it needs more scale. All right, so it's a great project. It's a project, though, that really needs further investment to expand it and to increase the volume throughput to really make it a robust project. And the result of that is really, as we came to that conclusion, we also had the opportunity to buy Sandfinks, which is 50 kilometers away. And Sandfinks is a previously producing mine underground, high grade, more tin than tungsten, 60% tin versus 40% tungsten. Operating 2017, selling very good, clean concentrate, 70% tin and con, 70% tungsten and con, 77% recoveries. So the metrics are all very, very good around it. When we acquired that, we went straight in and started doing a review of the resource, and we released back in October, it's made an underground JORC compliant resource. The main issue around Sandfinks has been that the operation's been in care and maintenance since 2017 because of flooding and a requirement to dewater from levels 5 to 8. We acquired this project from a Spanish engineering construction company that had already done a lot of work around the water discharge application. We stepped in and took it over. We've worked with them and shepherded through the public consultation process with Aguas de Galicia, the company, the water authority. And the water authority came out a few months ago to say that they will be looking to award that water discharge permit. And what we're doing now is just finalizing the conditions under which that award is to be made. So we're expecting that award to happen fairly soon. That's extremely good news because what it does is unlocks that project. Once that award is made, we can immediately move into updating the exploitation plan, doing the necessary studies around that to actually restart the development, refurbish the process plant. There's already a process plant there, 72,000 tons per annum. We can get in there and refurbish it a bit. We believe very little capital cost to get it up and running, and probably around 18 months we could be back into production. So a very attractive project, of which Santa Comba remains an interesting and an important component, and we could actually see that as potentially acting as a satellite feeding into Sandfinks.
What I was going to ask you was whether or not that was the idea behind it, because you were talking about you needed a bit more scale there.
Yeah.
Obviously,
the scale's for the open pit, but there's already a permit for the underground, and we're already maintaining operations in the Santa Comba underground. We're removing high-grade ore that was left behind. We're feeding it through a pilot plant. So we have operations going there on a small scale, but really to scale this up, we need a proper process plant. Are we going to build a process plant just for the underground? Probably not. What we'd prefer to do is we'd rather see that ore be crushed, ground, sorted, maybe even go through an ore sorter and then shipped somewhere else to be processed. That would make a lot of sense. And Sandfinks is a possibility. Obviously, there's additional permitting work that would need to be done around that, but it's certainly a possible option for Santa Comba.
Okay, so 18 months, all going well, you could be back into production.
That's right.
Have some cash flow. Were both of these assets included in the PFS that you released? And what sort of cash flows would we expect once it is in production?
So the PFS is just around the open pit. We haven't released any economics around either of the undergrounds. However, what we're looking to do is, it's a 72,000 ton per annum plant. It's over 1% grade, combined tin and tungsten. So you sort of can work through, I guess, what sort of production might come out of that. But and it's a 77% recovery. That will generate, we think, some pretty good cash flows. And to be absolutely clear, our focus is moving to Canada. And as a result of that, what we don't want to do is keep going back to Australia, tapping the market there to fund Spain.
Right.
So what we're looking at now is bringing in capital at a local level. People actually understand the tungsten market in Europe, which is something that we've always struggled with the Australian shareholder base. So we think we can do a much better deal within Europe, bringing in a mining engineering company, bringing in capital locally.
And this would be at the project level?
This would be at the project level. Yeah. Okay, they would help fund it through into production. We would dilute down our position in the Spanish projects, and they would help us take it through into production, and we would just become a shareholder in a Spanish tin and tungsten play. Okay, and that streamlines. This is very important. It streamlines. What we have to do is we have to show the market that we have a very clear focus. And when you put your money into pivotal metals, you need to know where that money's going to go. So that money's now, once the deal around Spain is done, basically the capital that goes into pivotal metals is being channeled to Canada.
Good. Okay, but if there is cash flow coming through, even through a Spanish JV, that would even then will be going into Canada as well. The cash flow.
Yes, we'd recycle it into Canada. So the idea of retaining an ownership in Spain and remaining involved is that even though they'll be diluted, it should be into cash flow, and those cash flows, we'd get a share of that coming back in.
Yes,
very, very
you can help
for a
fund
development company.
You can help fund your exploration.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Okay, over the next 12 months, obviously we've touched on quite a bit here, but what do we really need to be looking out for?
So the next 12 months. So one of the things we want to do is we want to, first of all, we need to close the deal on Horton Lake. That'll take us up to the end of the year. And then in Q1, we'll start the drilling out at Horden Lake. We'll start the metallurgical test work, the baseline studies. And through that year, we'll have those results coming out, and we'll be leading towards a PFS. In parallel to that, we'll be looking to finalize the terms of a deal around the Spanish assets to make sure that that's clearly separated from the rest of the business in a way that we can advance it without having drawn further capital from the shareholders. And so there's some fairly major components there going forward over the next 12 months. We'll leave a streamlined entity with a very, very clear portfolio and a very clear direction. So for us, it's, we've achieved an enormous amount in the last year, and we have an enormous amount to achieve this year. But what we've done, I think, is we've set out a very, very clear focused plan on how we're going to achieve it.
I'm glad. Steve, thank you for your time.
Thank you.